what it is, y'all. Lucky number 13 for Monty Mentality. That's right. Here back with Bunch again.
Start it up. Let's go.
Here at the Great Greenhouse Studios. Shout out to them for being the gracious hosts that they are. And of course, you already know, like, subscribe, hit that bell button, or, leave your review on whichever podcast platform you're listening on. That's right. We are on podcast now, like as an actual audio app. So, you could watch or listen, whichever one you choose.
Or do both.
Yes, correct. We like it if you do both.
You got free time.
But now, let's get down to business. As you know, the NBA Finals is upon us, so we're going to talk about how both teams got here and the matchup, as well as why people may not be as interested. We'll get into some of that.
Stephen A. Smith probably rolling over in his grave.
Yes, he is. As well as David Stern. I know he's down there disgusting. Or up there, maybe.
You said down there.
I'm thinking his actual grave.
Oh, that's fucked up.
I ain't think about his spirit, where his spirit is.
You probably did go to hell for that 2002. Never mind. We ain't got to talk about that. My bad.
Bringing up old wounds.
Yeah, they ain't go away yet.
But yeah, also, we're going to have a big gym talk. I might also, fit in something a little extra, but we'll see based on how long some of these topics go. But yes. Let's get into the 2025 NBA Finals. That's right. Lakers in fact. Oh wait, that's anyway.
It's crazy how last year I was picking the Kings to beat the Thunder in the first round of the playoffs. Look at where we at.
Look at how
that's
far
crazy.
we've come.
My niggas is trash.
Oh, there's the other Kings part of this that
we ain't got to talk about. We ain't got to do that. Because I will cry on national TV. Oh, I'm sorry.
On the national internet.
Yeah, my bad.
The international internet, actually.
I will cry on fire.
I got guys in across the pond that might see this, especially from my Discord. But yeah,
you talking about the Patuxent?
What's that? I got some guys, though, some of my fitness buddies across the pond. They'll probably see this, some of them. But yeah, is this finals, which includes the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, two small market teams. You got the Spurs with light-skinned Jesus, Oklahoma City and the MVP. Is this bad for the league or is it good? Now, before the answer, I'm going to list the bad reasons first and then the good reasons. Perhaps. These are just estimations. I'm not being definitive on any of these, but just making arguments. Seeing both sides of the argument. You know what I'm saying? So, some of the bad reasons. Two of the smaller markets in the league, obviously, Oklahoma City and Indiana. Nobody's going to confuse those for being overpopulated places like Los Angeles and New York, Dallas.
I think I read they're 21 and 25.
I think it was like 25 and 28 from what I saw. Because I'm like, 21 sounds high for definitely Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City's got to be like 28 because I think there's only two below them. But yeah, and Indiana's definitely probably in the 20s as well. So yeah, no, it's two very small markets. That's one reason it might not be great. Another reason, you don't have that super mega star involved. And when I say super mega star, I'm talking about your mom and your sister could point them out of a lineup. Like, oh yeah, that's LeBron, that's Steph, or whoever. Like, light-skinned Jesus, as great as he is,
yes,
and the MVP, they're not quite those type of stars that just draw in the casual audience.
This shit gonna get like Trump inauguration views.
Oh Lord.
I'm gonna enjoy it, but I don't think nobody gonna watch it for free.
Another reason, perhaps, that it's not great. Too much parity. Is there too much parity in the NBA? Because the NBA, as we know, has been built on dynasty. And this is going to be the first time in league history that you have had a unique champion for 7 consecutive seasons. First time it'll ever happen. It's guaranteed.
That's a good question. What's the consensus on that? I have an opinion, but I don't.
So the consensus I see is that people prefer dynasties, at least in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's the more common answer. Now, if you want my personal opinion, which we'll get to the overall verdict in a minute, but for that specifically, I don't think it's good or bad. I think it depends. Like, it depends on who the dynasty is or who's driving the parity. You know, if you have enough of those type of stars, then it can work. But I guess the other part of it is stars of that magnitude are usually built from dynasties. Like, would Kobe be the same star if, you know, the Lakers didn't three-peat? Would Steph be the same star if the Warriors didn't win 3 out of 4? You know, KD. Granted, KD was kind of a megastar before he got to Golden State, so that's a little different. Same thing with LeBron. So again, their stars go up as the dynasties get built. But I don't necessarily think you have to win multiple championships to be like a megastar, but it definitely helps, right? MJ was the biggest star in the league before he even won one championship.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's necessary, but it definitely adds to it. Like, you know, the Bulls and Jazz is the most watched NBA game ever for a reason. Bulls Jazz game 6 in 98. Still to this day. For a reason. That's the most watched NBA game ever, I believe. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so, and just to compare it to the NFL. So the NFL, I did my homework on this. So at least in the Super Bowl era, there's only one time. So the NFL is supposed to be the big parity league. There's only one time, at least in the Super Bowl era, and this is probably true for the whole history of the league, I'm sure. But I just looked at the Super Bowl. To have 7 consecutive years with the unique Super Bowl winners, so meaning, and we're defining this as not just they didn't win the year before, they hadn't won in that whole time period, because that's what we're dealing with. Right now, you had, so Golden State went back-to-back in 17 and 18. Then you've had the Toronto Raptors, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Milwaukee, wait, did I say Milwaukee already?
You said Milwaukee.
Yeah, Toronto, the Lakers. I got it out of order. Toronto, Los Angeles Lakers, Milwaukee Bucks, Golden State Warriors, Denver Nuggets, Boston Celtics, and now it will be one of Oklahoma City or Indiana. That's 7 straight times that you had a team that has 7 different teams. In the NFL, this has only happened once, and it actually was 8 straight years from 2018 to 15. Where you had 8 unique winners: Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Green Bay, the New York Giants, Baltimore, Seattle, New England, and Denver. That's it. You haven't had it recently. Remember, Kansas City has won 3 times in the last 6 years. New England had a stretch where they won every other year, 14, 16, and 18. So, yeah, it's... even the NFL is not as parity driven as people think. But like I said, I don't think basketball, I think parity can be good, but it depends. So that sounds like a cop-out answer, but that's my real answer. And the other reason it might not be great for the NBA is because I just think people don't like Shea and light-skinned Jesus like that. They don't believe in the gospel, which is crazy.
No, they really don't. They are going to hell, but that's
they hate Halliburton and they hate Shea. Like, I think they act, and it's like,
do people
it's not,
actually hate Shea though?
Yes, because they think it's a free throw merchant.
Oh, okay, I can see that.
So, and I think it's not the kind of, now it might graduate to the kind of hate like the way people hated the Warriors, the way they hated the LeBron Heat, the way they hated Shaq and Kobe, where it's like, we're gonna watch to see you lose.
Per se.
I don't know if Oklahoma City will get to that level, because I do think Oklahoma City is set up to be that dynastic team. They have that potential, especially given that Their 3 top guys are all young, and they have a billion draft picks to cycle guys in and out as they need to.
I need them to win this one before I comment.
But I think that they are set up to be that dynastic team. I don't know though if they're going to draw the kind of hate because they're not going to be the cool team. So they have to be hate
doing that because can you really hate on young guns like that?
I mean, young guns eventually become old guns. Like once upon a time, the Warriors were the young guns.
Well, right, but now they're not. But
that's what I'm saying. Like the Warriors, it didn't take long for people to start hating on the Warriors.
Well, they didn't start hating until after the KD stuff, though.
They were already starting before that, but the KD took it into like, okay, now like it was obvious, right?
Yeah.
But even in that 16 finals, like most people were like, now some of it's because they love LeBron, but also because like they wanted to see the Warriors lose. I remember that. Like people were very happy to see the Warriors lose in 16, and then of course when they got KD,
they're the closest team to my 2002 Kings that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
we were better, but that's a debate for another topic.
But yeah, I think that people just don't like those guys, and it's not in a we're gonna watch you to lose kind of way. Though again, I think it could evolve to that potentially. Like I said, I don't think people are gonna gravitate to Holly or Shea in the way of like, oh man, they're so cool, or I mean, granted, I think Holly is very fun to watch when he's on, and I think Shea is a little underappreciated. Like everyone says they want the MJ and Kobe, or you basically got it now, and it's just like
the MJ and Kobe. What do you mean?
Like in terms of how they play. Like Shea's the closest thing in terms of play style and approach to like how he scores and all of that you've had since them.
I don't know about that, but I do know what you're saying. But
I ain't saying he is them.
No, I hear you.
He's the closest thing in terms of like he's mostly driven on getting to the basket, working the mid range type of scoring guard. And people talk about the foul merchant stuff, but like Kobe and MJ used to use their tricks too to do the same shit.
Well, all high volume scorers, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I
think Shea just be look goofy with it.
Right,
like, you slow the camera down. That should be
it looks kind of goofy, especially because nobody moves like Shea does. Like he just has a unique movement about him.
He's pretty long, so he does kind of look different when he kind of be doing his thing.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing with it. But yeah, I think it comes down to that. Now the good reasons why it's good for the NBA. To me, great basketball matchup in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's an elite offense versus maybe the greatest defense we've ever seen. Certainly the greatest defense we've probably seen at least in 20 years. I would have to go back to the 2004 Pistons. Their defense is definitely living up to the hype. Young up-and-coming stars with Shea and Light-Skinned Jesus, Holly, as well as other young guns like J-Dub and Shet. Yep. Even Siakam, he's not a young gun, but, he's nice. Two of the better playoff crowds in the NBA, for sure, even though that doesn't always translate on TV. But by all accounts, Indiana, we know about Oklahoma City.
I'm gonna say OKC definitely translates.
You can see OKC for sure, but even Indiana, from what we see, is
Caitlin Clark in the games now, so you know how that.
Of course, you got the Caitlin effect. So, and then these two teams, I think, have few exploitable weaknesses, especially Oklahoma City, which we'll get to that. I think that's very important. And the clash of styles. You have the pace of the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
And their frenetic ways against the turnover forcing and transition machine of Oklahoma City. Something's got to give, and that's going to be fun to watch. So my overall verdict, I think it's good overall for the league, even if the ratings don't immediately show it. I think it takes time to build stars, and that gets also to, I think that we should never complain about awesome basketball, in my opinion. That's my hot take.
Agreed.
And the media, in my opinion, needs to do a better job of telling the story of the league and these teams, and particularly talking about the media partners. So that's basically ESPN and TNT. I think that they need to do a better job of selling the stories and telling the stories of these players. You know, when it's not LeBron, when it's not Steph, when it's not KD, when it's not the Knicks, when it's not the Lakers, et cetera, et cetera.
They're not interested in generating kind of buzz. They just want
the
what's
stars
there.
of the show is Stephen A. Smith and Kenny Smith and Shaq and Charles and all of that. Those are the real stars. But I actually am optimistic that NBC and Amazon will do a much better job at that. But of course, we'll see. But yeah. Now, let's revisit, though, before we preview the full finals, what I said about these teams pre-playoff. So, OKC, I had them as the number one team coming into the playoffs. I really fucked that up, didn't I? Ain't know what I was talking about. They were just in the finals with the highest point differential in the playoffs and the best defense in the playoffs since forever. Like, you know, clearly I didn't know what I was talking about. I said their defense was the big selling point. Yeah, didn't know what I was talking about there. Defense sucked. I did mention their potential downfall would be if J-Dub and Shaq weren't ready to be the 2 and the 3 options, which almost happened. Because in that Denver series, kind of rough with them boys. They almost went down in part because of that, but eventually they figured it out. So that's OKC. Indiana, I rated them number 4 in the East, including behind Milwaukee. Ouch.
Behind all the teams they beat.
Now, I thought Dame was coming back, and he did, kind of, but, not really. But in my defense, I also did have them ahead of the Knicks. But, maybe they were also too low. But I did say, though, that they could beat Cleveland potentially. I did say that. But I didn't think they could get all the way to the finals because I incorrectly assumed that if they did get past Cleveland, they'd be playing Boston. And, well, that didn't happen. I don't know if you know.
It did not.
Now, and I did say they had an awesome starting 5, and that has been the thing that has pushed them here. And a strong all-around roster. They did show that. And I noted that they may not have that top end gear on either end of the floor. That was an error because I did note that the Savior, we know here is licensed Jesus, but you might know him as Tyrese Halliburton. All things are possible. And that offense is absolutely amazing. And he is the primary reason for it.
Amen.
Now, the most interesting things, in my opinion, to look forward to this series. Obviously, the Indiana high-powered offense against this nasty Oklahoma City defense. Light-skinned Jesus struggled against them in the regular season. Will that happen again? Can he shake the Lou Dort and others to avoid those single-digit games that he's prone to have?
Oh, he cooking in the finals. I promise you that.
It'll be interesting to see what Oklahoma City's approach is, if they're going to try to get the ball out of his hands. Usually teams will switch Halliburton. Oklahoma City doesn't really like to do that. They don't like switching, really. They'll just fight through the screens and
get cooked. I actually like that about them, that they don't switch, but.
And Chet on Siakam is probably the matchup to start there. How does that go? And if Chet can't hack it, that probably means J-Dub. But, OKC has dudes on dudes. They might even do Hardenstein on Siakam. So those matchups will be fun to watch. And even more important, I ain't going to say more important, but transition into will Hardenstein get played off the floor, and does it even matter if he does? Because again, OKC has dudes on dudes, and they could play big, they could play small, they could play it all. So And then you have a low turnover team. Actually, both teams are low in turnovers, but especially Indiana. They are really, really good at not turning it over. As you know, Halliburton had that crazy game against the Knicks.
Yes, sir.
Where he had like 30 points, 15 assists, and no turnovers.
35, 12, and 14 or something like that.
It was something wild with no turnovers. They don't turn it over. Versus one of the best turnover forcing teams we've ever seen with Oklahoma City. All those sharks that they have, especially Mr. Caruso. Oh, how I missed you. The only guy who's played in the finals, by the way, Alex Caruso. That's in this one. But yeah, something's gonna have to give there. So that'll be one of the big storylines I think to watch is who wins that turnover battle between them on that end of the floor. And then the Pacers' defense has been fine, but not amazing. And will they be able to slow Shea down at all? My guess is no, they won't. I don't think they really have much of a prayer against Shea based on what they have. Now, maybe they go zone. Maybe Carlisle comes up with some crazy shit that I can't anticipate that is just going to flummox all this. But, like, they don't have anyone. Like, Nembhard's too small. I don't think Naismith is quick enough.
Probably not.
They can't switch because Siakam and Turner will get cooked. So, like, I think and actually I'm gonna get ahead of myself here. We'll get to my X factor in a minute. But I think this is the end of the floor that's going to determine how long this series is.
You think the X factor is TJ McConnell?
Yes. No. but
strapping Jay.
But yeah, I think this end of the floor will be what determines how long the series goes. I actually think TJ McConnell won't be able to play that much in this series because that just gives OKC someone to help off of, and that's just depth against them. But yeah, I think if Indiana cannot remotely slow down OKC, it just gets real tough. And it's the same thing with Minnesota had that same issue. Memphis had that same issue. It's kind of wild that Denver did a better job defending them than Minnesota did. But it kind of makes sense when you really think about it in a way, because Minnesota's perimeter defenders aren't built really to slow down Shea, even though on paper they should be better at it. Like, the best guy to guard Shea on Minnesota is probably Ant, and he can't do that whole game. So,
I think, too, Denver's just way better at controlling pace than Minnesota is.
They're better at controlling pace. They're better at not making mistakes, which is funny about OKC, because as young as they are, they also don't make mistakes.
They're very well coached.
Correct.
Which is what I would have gave Indiana's advantage to. But even though
I do think Indiana will have the coaching advantage.
Well, no,
I just think
I think they have the coaching advantage too, but it's not to the level like it was against New York.
I would say that's true. And I also would say, though, that what's going to offset that is that Carlisle just doesn't have as many buttons to push as Daigneault, which we'll get to in terms of who's going to win. But, I think Daigneault has more buttons to push. Now, he might push too many buttons.
I think the Knicks probably had more buttons to push, too.
Than the Pacers. Maybe. Yeah. Well, yeah. Tips just probably doesn't know how to use them.
Yeah. So it's
particularly on offense. Defense, he actually did push buttons pretty well, but offensively, yeah, I left a lot to be desired on that, which is why he's not coaching anymore. But yeah, my guess is, though, that, like I said, they have a Shea problem. And then by extension, they will have a J-Dub problem because, if you have to put somebody better on Shea, well, then now J-Dub can get downhill. And the Pacers' big thing is they like to pressure you, but Oklahoma City, I think, is the worst team to do that against, because then, Shea and J-Dub, I mean, they're just going to go right by you in a way that Brunson and Towns and a hobbled Garland and Mitchell, they weren't going to do that.
I almost feel like my strategy would be, if I was the Pacers, just let Tyrese stick with Shea and let Shea go for 40, 45, take all the other players out, Well, yeah, let him go for his 40, 50 points and take all the other players out of the game and just then play your game on offense and hope you got a bunch of niggas that score 15, 20 points.
I mean,
I don't know any other way they're going to. I mean, you're not going to stop shit with anybody on their roster. So,
and it's not just
let him go up.
and the issue is it's not just that they don't have a guy, because generally against Shea, you need a guy to slow him down at least a little bit. Also, like, he's going to kill you in a way where it's like it's constantly compromising your defensive principles. So
yeah, so just put Tyrese on him and let him do what he gonna do, but
like
make sure J-Dub
it's
don't
not
go
even
off,
like
Chet go
yeah,
off,
it's not even like if you don't have a guy on him, if you play regular pick and roll, he's gonna pick that apart. You know, if Turner or Siakam's dropping back up mid range cookies, you know,
yeah,
and then
you're not stopping them. So
like it's like it's
don't
not
waste,
they don't have a lot of
waste
they don't have any
Nesmith
real answers
on them. Put Nesmith on someone that he's
J-Dub.
probably a better matchup for. Stop him a bit, then put Nesmith on someone he's a better matchup for. Keep Siakam on Chet, whatever it is. Kind of hold them other pieces in check, and then
yeah. The only thing is Shea might legit destroy you.
Well, you might, but like that
might be
your only other
hope.
option. That's your only option, really.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, like.
But yeah, I feel like the way the Patriots like to play defense plays right into OKC's hands, because they like to shut down threes and force drives. That's exactly what OKC wants to do. But so we'll see. But my X factors for the series. For the Indiana Pacers, it is Ben Mathurin. And the reason I say Ben Mathurin is because he's probably the best physical matchup for Shea.
I wasn't even thinking about him. Yeah.
So now, do I think he's actually going to succeed? No. But if they could unearth something there, then that might make this series even more interesting than I would anticipate.
Yeah.
And also while providing some offense, obviously. And for OKC, I think their X factor that nobody's going to think about is Isaiah Joe. Because if Isaiah Joe, the way Indiana plays offense, they don't necessarily have the means. They don't have the approach that would like totally expose somebody like Isaiah Joe. So, and Isaiah Joe's a good team defender. So if he can be out there, then that unlocks another element of OKC's offense where you got their best spacer and it unlocks their guard screening.
I can't get over his name though. He just sounds like a hillbilly. Isaiah Joe.
And then yeah, you're really in trouble because like I said, if you can't slow down OKC, well, it gets tough because their defense is gonna give you a hard time. Like you might have games where you go off, but over the course of the series, like defense we've seen what they can do. So my actual prediction is officially Lakers in 5. All right. No.
You can't help yourself.
OKC in 5 is my prediction. I think 4 is actually more likely than 6. As much as I think this series is going to be good, like the actual games, I'm just not sure it's going to be long. That is not what she said. But yeah, I think that I respect Indiana to where it's like I'm going to give them a game because as I think about it intellectually, like OKC should win this series convincingly. When I think about like how it should go, but I have enough respect for what Indiana has done and what I think they're capable of that I'm not going to say that Oklahoma City's just going to sweep them. And I think that the games, whether it goes 5 or 6 or whatever, the games will be fun to watch. Most of them will be competitive.
I'm having a hard time not saying OKC in 4. But I do think there'll probably be like the Minnesota series, the one game where the refs ain't calling the whistle for Shea. And Indiana might squeak it out at home.
Yeah, like, I mean, because really OKC has had, because they're good for tricking off a game, like that game 3 in Minnesota. They would have tricked off game 3 in Memphis if Ja doesn't get hurt, and then they tricked off game 1 against Denver. though that was more like the end. But also, again, Indiana is the worst team to trick off games against because they have three of the most ridiculous comebacks in the entire history of sports.
I don't think they can do that against OKC, though.
In one playoff run against three different teams.
OKC is a different story, but yeah.
But yeah, like I said, the actual games, I think, will be good basketball. So, yeah.
I agree.
Very much looking forward to it.
I don't want to see it, but I think I got OKC in 4. I hate to say
My cousin Reggie actually is trying to bet people that OKC will win in 4.
Because, like, for me, like, everything you said, but it's just, like, I like everything Indiana has. Just OKC has it, too, just a little better.
Yeah, so I think they're a terrible matchup for. Even though, again, I think that basketball will be good. I think this will be better basketball than we would have got if it was the Knicks. I think the Celtics would have been the absolute best basketball, but you know, they are where they are now, and unfortunately, you know, the injury with Tatum as well. But
yeah, I agree with that. It's a better series than the Knicks. They would have got the Knicks out of here in 3.
2.5. But yeah, so looking forward to the finals, and of course, we will talk about that when we do episode 14, more than likely. But now we're getting to the other big part, which is gym talk, and specifically my gym journey over the last 6 years. So since August 2019, when I joined LA Fitness, I've been consistently working out to where now for almost 6 full years, I've only had 1 full week in which I didn't do any sort of workout. You know, something in the gym, cardio, or even a home workout. Remember COVID? Yeah. Your boy was doing all the pull-ups and push-ups in the crib, and I was running outside. Because we still kind of felt safe outside. You know, some people were still having their mask on outside back then, too. Niggas would be running with their mask on. That shit was crazy. I tried that. I was like, nah.
Niggas out there looking like Bane.
I can't do this. But yeah. Went from a pure dad bod to now the Adonis you see before you.
All
right. Still learning and getting better, but safe to say I'm an advanced gym goer by any reasonable standard. And the total package. I got the leanness. I got muscle in all the areas. You know, like I said, I ain't saying I'm the biggest nigga in the gym, but, you know, I'm not no Johnny Bravo out here. I got both the show muscles and the other muscles. So, you know, it's no bragging. It's just facts. Someone actually did, my guy across the pond in the UK, shout out to my guy Paul on Discord. He actually did say that the other day. It's like, you're the total package. That was yesterday, I think. So that ain't just me. I ain't just say that. You know. But yeah, acknowledge.
Hey, Paul. Well, you said his name was Paul? I hope you said pause after that. I don't know if y'all do that in the UK or not, but.
Well, they definitely don't.
Oh, they just be saying gay shit and just. Never mind. It's gym. Sorry.
Yeah, gym culture is a little. Especially because most of my fitness bros, especially across the pond ones, they are not. They do not come from African heritage. So, I'll say that.
Oh, so they be wild with it, yeah.
Well, the Brit guys aren't as wild as their American brethren, I don't think. They're a little more chill. I'll say that.
Shout out to you, Paul. Don't comment on me, though. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, we're going to go over things that I've learned over these 6 years. Some things that I had right from the start. What I changed my perspective on and maybe gain some nuance on. And general tips that might help you regular civilians.
This nigga called us civilians.
I'm just clowning, yeah. But just anything that'll help anyone that might be listening or watching. Now, not trying to keep channeling my inner Dom Mazzetti here. First, what I've known all along. So, the thing I got right back then, and we're starting from 2019 here, so not like fucking 2006 Brandon, talking 2019. Getting stronger is the key to getting jacked. So, seems pretty straightforward, right? You get stronger, you get bigger muscles. Duh. But some people really overcomplicate the shit where they think, oh, all these tricks and stuff will get there. And we're assuming you're natural. We're not, pinning the needle where literally you could do anything and that's going to work. No, it's all natural muscle. So you have to actually like do stuff right. You can focus on whatever. You can focus on your form. You can focus on range of motion. You can focus on your rep ranges, rest between sets, drop sets, stupid sets, rest pause, this trick, that, whatever. It does not matter if that weight on the bar is not going up over time. It's all for nothing. At the end of the day, that weight on the bar has to go up over time if you're going to get more muscle. Now, but this is where the confusion comes in because they say, okay, well, I want a bigger chest, so I'm going to just get my bench up to 225 by 8. And if I do that, then obviously my chest going to be big, right? Maybe. It depends because, yes, you have to get stronger, but it's not just getting stronger, it's how you get stronger. If you do things where you're manipulating variables to lift the most amount of weight you can versus getting stronger in a specific, say, standardized form, that's where you might run into problems and you might not get the muscle you're looking for, despite the fact that you're getting stronger on paper. If you're cutting your range of motion short as you squat, you was going, below parallel and now you're up here with it. But hey, my squat went up by 75 pounds, but my legs ain't really growing. Well, yeah, that's because you're bastardizing the exercise. Like, you have to execute it properly. You have to execute it with a standardized form. Range of motion can be overrated. It's more a range of motion that is effective, which could be quote unquote full or it could be whatever. But just
got fathers. That's crazy.
It is fatherless behavior to bastardize exercises. I'll say that. But yeah, you need to find a standardized form that you get stronger at that. So like if I'm doing my curls, let's say I'm gonna preach curl, I'm doing like this, and that's my range of motion. That's enough to extend the elbow, put it up here. Now I need to get stronger doing this specifically. If I start doing this instead of this, and that includes like cadence and all that, like, yeah, you're not going to get bigger biceps. Eventually, they're going to stop growing. You need to make sure you get stronger in that specific plane. And you have to let the adaptation come over time. You can't force it. You have to let it happen over time. So that's where the confusion comes in on that.
Just take steroids, niggas. But stop before you start hitting bitches.
B Monty does not endorse them. But yeah. Another thing I got right. Weight training defeats cardio for both physique goals and fat loss. I mean, obviously those two things are intertwined, but yeah. Now, here's the thing. Before some nincompoop gets it confused, you should do strength training and cardio. I'm not saying only do strength training or weight training or bodybuilding, whatever. Like, no, you do both, but we're talking about priorities. What should you prioritize? If you're short on time at the gym and you can only do one, which one should you do? You weight train. Now, it is true that cardio burns more calories and thus more fat than weight training does. That is true, but here's the problem. It's not the whole story. So first of all, building more muscle helps you burn more calories at rest, right? And also improves your body composition. If you are just becoming a skinnier version of what you already were, well, then that's not the goal, right? If you're trying to actually transform your body and your look and your overall physical capabilities, sure, getting skinnier might help, but it goes to a whole different level when you put muscle on that. Also, the other thing you got to think about, the amount of calories you actually burn during cardio is actually not that much. unless you do it for a long time and you're actually really in shape. Just for context, you take a 200-pound male, right? And he runs for 6 miles. That's not a short amount of time, right? Let's say he runs 6 miles in an hour. That's 10-minute mile for an hour, which your average person probably cannot do. But like, let's just
a hell of a pace.
So your average person probably can't do that. But if he's 200 pounds, he's probably burning anywhere from 600 to 800 calories, something like that, right? You could undo that with a Popeyes chicken wrap pretty easy, right? So like, in the grand scheme of things, cardio does burn more calories, but it's not that much to where it's like, oh, I can go eat burgers now. Like, no. So that's why I always say, use the gym for your muscle, use the diet for, and hold on, let me backtrack a bit. Cardio helps a little bit. It does help a little bit. I use cardio as a fat loss tool myself, but I really use it for health reasons.
I'm about to say, you need to strengthen y'all hearts. That's what cardio is for.
Hey, my resting heart rate is in the 40s, so you know, I'm good on that front. But yeah, but I also do cardio.
Yeah, I ain't talking about you. I'm just talking about people in general.
But yeah, you know, do your cardio, whichever modality, and we'll get to that a little later in terms of modalities of cardio. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, cardio, I think is best used for health reasons more so than fat loss, and also just general fitness, which will help you also in the weight room. Like when you're doing a setup, if you're doing leg exercises in particular, you don't want your cardio to limit you, right? So that's where having that cardio base helps you. So yeah, so that's the thoughts on that. Another one, heavy weights, low reps for bulking / building, lightweight, high reps for cutting or toning. Complete, utter nonsense. In fact, it might even be the reverse to some extent. Because when you're losing weight, you want to maintain as much intensity, which means how much weight you're lifting, as possible. That's the key to preserving or gaining muscle. It's maintaining that or even increasing that weight on the bar over time. Now, especially if you're experiencing the gym, you will naturally get weaker on some movements. Like right now, my squat and bench are kind of cheeks because I'm in the midst of a diet. But, you know, that's more like leverages and losing water and glycogen and all that here. So it's not like the same. Like a 225 bench for me now is more tension than it was when I was 180 pounds, you know, 6 weeks ago. So that's how that goes. But you want to maintain as much strength as possible. That's important, which is pretty straightforward. And if anything, the whole lightweight, high reps, that might actually be better when you're bulking up because you have more capacity, work capacity, and you have more reserves in terms of, like I said, your glycogen stores and all that to like burn the muscles and all of that, right? So it's actually might kind of be the reverse of what you would think. And also one more thing. This is one of our big first myths busted, along with just that. Toning. Toning is not a thing, okay? It's bullshit, all right? It's a marketing term, okay? What you're really talking about is you're just trying to build muscle and then lose the fat that shows that muscle. That's all toning is. So how do you tone? You build muscle and lose fat.
Put down the fork.
And hit the gym. And might be possible at the same time, depending on your situation. Another one that I got right. Carbs are not the enemy for fat loss. With a caveat.
Okay.
You will likely eat less carbs by default just because you're eating less food in general. So you got to pull the calories from somewhere. A lot of times carbs is one of the easiest places to do that. But do you need to avoid carbs completely to lose fat? I'm a prime example that the answer is no, you don't. Now, if you find it easier to stick to a diet focusing on cutting carbs specifically and it's working, keep doing that. But what I'm saying is that it's not required for you to avoid carbs, lose fat. I am getting down to really sharp abs as we speak, and I'm still eating bread. I'm still eating rice. I'm even drinking wine. Like, I'm still doing that stuff, and I'm not having any struggles dropping this fat. So, you got to do what works for you, but understand that carbs are not the source of fat. It's eating too much.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's get to some things that I've learned. First off, there is no best exercise for muscle growth, or even general fitness. It is context dependent based on your own goals, how you're built, your skill level, your experience, etc. For me personally, as an example, I've had an emotional attachment to free weights, especially free weight exercises, heavy, including squats, bench, pull-ups, overhead press, deadlifts, etc. But some of those lifts are not the best thing for me to do. Squats, I'm not built to squat because I've got long legs and a short torso, so it's hard for me to stay upright when I squat. Not to say that I have to avoid them completely, but I might have to put them to the side. Bench, I have long-ish arms for my height, and again, I'm not really big in the torso area. I actually am built for pull-ups. I love pull-ups, but you might not be. You might be better off with pull-down variations. And you figure this out as you get more experience. But yeah, the big thing is free weights are not inherently superior to machine.
Yes, they are. Sorry, guys.
They can get the job done just as well, and in some cases better, depending on your situation. Now, I'm not telling you not to do free weight compounds. I still do. You just have to do what the ones that suit you the best, and then fill in the gap accordingly to which doesn't work as well. Now I'm about to say something very disgusting that would put Dom Mazzetti and my 2019 self to shame. I've even considered doing the Smith machine exercises. I haven't yet. But I've been mulling it over. Of giving it a try.
That nigga Earl gonna take his compliment back.
But speaking of the Smith machine, another thing I learned, my bias is strong against it, but I must admit, Planet Fitness can get the job done if you know what you're doing. Another thing that 2019 me would turn his nose up at. But I still wouldn't recommend it for novices.
Speaking of Planet Fitness,
intermediate.
Happy Pride Month.
Oh my God.
Oh, my bad. I thought that was a pride shout out. My bad. Sorry.
Definitely not. I definitely wouldn't recommend it for novices, and definitely not intermediate, because really the problem with Planet Fitness is just the lack of optionality. You need the options so you can figure out like what really works for you and what doesn't. And Planet Fitness does kind of put you in a box.
Because they only serve one kind of pizza on Tuesday night.
And I did make the joke that the only serious gym people that are at Planet Fitness are the booty chicks and booty chicks and guys who are already built all the muscle they want and they just need to maintain, and that's very easy to do. So, but yeah, another thing I've learned though, they say it's 20% gym, 80% diet. Again, total nonsense. It's closer to the reverse, really. But you do need both. But diet can be a bit more forgiving in terms of, why does this thing change? But I can still see the time. Okay. It's more forgiving. Diet is a bit more forgiving, but you can't completely fuck it up because it will derail you, whether you're trying to build muscle, lose fat, or both. If you're not eating enough, you won't grow muscle. If you're eating too much, you won't lose fat. And if you're eating like ridiculous macronutrient ratios, whatever, you're just not going to get what you want. Another thing, the way you train as a beginner will likely be much different than how you train as a novice, intermediate, advanced. Even within seasons, you might have to evolve your training over time. Depends. What's good for you today might not be good tomorrow. Always stay open-minded. That's what Monty mentality is all about. Not just in the gym, in general. Though we're not sexually open. Straight and narrow.
No Planet Fitness.
Let's see. What's another one? Things. Okay, this section, things that I've gained nuance on. So, and some myths as well. So, one, you must confuse your muscles for them to keep growing. Again, total bullshit. There is a grain of truth though in that, per the previous slide, where you might have to evolve your training over time based on your needs and changes. Like, for example, me having to not deadlift anymore because I'm getting too strong to do it on the regular on top of all the other stuff. But that's not me having to change it up to confuse the muscles and do RDOs instead.
Humble brag.
It's but it's true though. It is true. I'm not lying. You might have to correct weaknesses, etc., overuse, injuries. You might have to change things up, but it's not because you need to confuse the muscles. There are practical reasons why. Number one, eat big to get big. I'm going to try to do this little lightning round style because we're getting short on time. So eat big, get big. Again, utter nonsense in its true spirit. Now, again, the grain of truth here is if you're a skinny kid with a BMI of 19, yeah, you might need to be on the seafood diet, because for you, seafood diet will just lead you to eating a little bit more than what you need to maintain your weight, and thus you can gain muscle slowly because, again, muscle's a slow process. You can't force feed muscle growth.
By seafood, you mean seafood, eat food?
Correct.
Okay.
You see it, you eat it.
Make sure niggas ain't thinking you talking about crabs and lobster and shit. Talking about that Zion Williamson diet.
You see it, you eat it. Slow and steady wins the race. Keep in mind that in my case, right, my BMI right now is only a 25.7 today. My heaviest BMI when I wasn't working out was a 29. So I still haven't even come close to that. Just to give you an idea of like, hey, and you see, like I said, I'm pretty muscular now. Like, you don't need to eat a whole lot to gain muscle. Slow and steady wins the race, guys. But another thing is bulking is necessary to grow muscle. I would say for most schmoes, this is not true. If you're above 50% body fat, which by the way, that's usually equals abs in your flex, you probably can gain muscle without gaining weight. Now, that won't last forever, but at least for where you are right now, yeah. Now, is it still ideal to gain weight if muscles gain is your primary goal? Yes, but you have to consider the trade-off. If you're, say, over 25% body fat, you might have different priorities that you need to focus on. Just saying. You do what you want. It's your body. But
your body, your choice.
But, going up to 20 to 22% body fat isn't the end of the world. And by the way, 20% for most guys is a completely flat stomach, just to give you an idea. Not much man titty, probably no man titty. Flat stomach. So 20% is leaner than you realize, than it sounds like. Like most guys, if you saw them in a t-shirt and 20%, you'd be like, oh, okay, that guy's in pretty good shape, whatever. And you probably don't need to bulk up past that. I haven't been 20% body fat since 2020. Now, women have more leeway here generally because, hormonally and all of that. But add 6 to 9% to their numbers for the equivalent compared to a male. And my good rule of thumb is if you're
be fat, yo.
If your BMI is above 25 and you haven't trained hard and effectively, consistently, which means consistent progress as well for 3 years, you probably don't have to bulk. Now, if you're below 23, you probably should. But This is just quick, math. And then general tips I'll give y'all before we go. So the truth is, most of you want to look good and feel good. That's why you join the gym. And so you need to respect that and have your goals aligned with that. So don't be doing a bunch of nonsense. Just get you on a good general strength training routine or bodybuilding, whichever one you want to call it. Focus on eating good, healthy foods generally. Do steady state cardio. And that's all you really need to know. Now, the specifics of how you do that, that's going to vary person to person based on your needs, what you have available, etc. But those are the pillars, right? Also, it's going to take longer than you think. Muscle growth is quite slow, even at the start, okay? Even at the start, at best, you might be gaining 2 pounds a month. At best, in terms of muscle. Like, it's slow. And I'm guilty of this too as well. Because even fat loss, while much quicker than muscle growth, still takes time, and you probably have a lot more to lose than you think. Again, using myself as an example, I thought that I was going to look how I want, or I could, even while gaining muscle at 175. Reality was, it was 165. So that's 10 extra pounds. And I went all the way down to 150 at one point. I was wilding at the time. Don't worry about that. That was, COVID time. But hey, it taught me how to be lean and to stay in shape.
Your grandma was so concerned.
I remember that. But hey, the abs were adding something serious. And I'm about to be back to that probably this week. But yeah. But remember that fat is everywhere. It's all over. It has to come from everywhere. Even your face. Feet fat. You know what it's like to know how it feels to lose feet fat, nigga?
Your socks be fitting different.
Like walking on the ground, like, damn, this ground feeling a little harder than it usually does. That is what she said. But yeah, feet fat. But yeah, if you got a gut, you probably got fat on your chest. You probably got fat on your back, big back, legs, all of that, right? Another key point. This is a big one. Complexity does not always equal better. Shout out to Coach Faz for this one.
Coach Fats.
Faz. His name is Faz.
Shout out to Coach Fats.
Only make things more complicated when necessary. Keep it as simple as you can. This is for training, diet, lifestyle, all of that. You don't have to do these complicated sleep patterns or whatever. Just keep it as simple as needed. Only add complexity when it's necessary. Also, this is also from Fast. If you can't get better at an exercise in the 5 to 15 rep range over time in solid, consistent form for whatever reason, get rid of it. If you can't do that with squats, stop squatting. Can't do a bench, stop benching, et cetera, et cetera. There is no magical exercise. Just do what works for you, the individual. And the only way you're going to know that, get in the lab. Get to work. And the 4 pillars of good exercises, if you're trying to make your own program. Does it target the muscle effectively that you're trying to grow? So like you're not going to do pull-ups for your chest. And you're not going to do this stupid, well, we'll get to that in a second. Is it safe for you? Is it stable? And stable doesn't necessarily mean like machines. It could be free weights, but can you make it stable, putting yourself in place? And then does it have progression potential? So like this plate shit that people be doing, how you going to load that? You won't. So yeah, get that out of here. And then the most important thing probably is find the modality of lifting and cardio that you enjoy or hate the least, because that's what you will sustain and give true effort to. Same thing for diet. Whether it's flexible approach, if it fit your macros, keto, carnivore, whatever feels the least restrictive to you that can still get you to your goals, stick with that and you will win. The only true hard rule is you got to eat and work out for your goal. But then whatever fits within that is fair game. Anything else? Yes, before we close.
Nah, just stay out of Planet Fitness, bro.
All right, and we're done for today. So shout out to my oldest baby, London. Her birthday is coming up soon.
Hey, can I do a shout out real quick?
Yes, you can.
Got a new nephew this morning. My brother had his third son today, Ethan Bunch. So shout out to him. I can't wait to meet him down in Georgia.
And thanks to Greenhouse Studios. Like, subscribe, leave reviews, all the good stuff. And until next time, we out. That way.